Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 4, Chapter 3, Text 23. We have been reading the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada to Text 23. So we'll just quickly read the translation. I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudev in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudev, is revealed without any covering. Lord Shiva is telling to Sati that he is constantly offering obeisances to Krishna. And we were hearing yesterday about the Shuddha Sattva platform, which is beyond the material modes of material nature. And the pure devotee is situated on this Shuddha platform, Shuddha Sattva platform. And from this platform, by continuing to engage in devotional service, one can understand the science of Krishna. So continuing to read, the action of the internal potency is also described in this verse as apavritaha, free from any covering. So material energy, Maya, she has this covering potency. She covers our true knowledge that we are eternal souls, part and parcel of Krishna. But the internal energy, she is she does not put us in this kind of illusion. It is the material energy that puts us in this illusion. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His name, His form, His quality, His paraphernalia, etc., being transcendental, are beyond material nature, it is not possible to understand any one of them with the materialistic senses. So Krishna and His name are non-different. Krishna and His form are non-different. Krishna and His quality are non-different. Krishna and His paraphernalia are non-different. These are all transcendental, but we cannot understand them with our material senses. We cannot approach them with our material senses. When the senses are purified by the discharge of pure devotional service, Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate, the pure senses can see Krishna without covering. So again, the same example can be applied. When the window is dirty, we can't look outside, unable to see because it's filled with dirt. Similarly, right now, our senses are covered with lust, greed, all the material contamination. So how can we see Krishna, who is completely spiritual, with our material eyes? We are not able to. So we have to purify the senses. And how the senses can be purified? When we engage them in Krishna's service. Rishikesha, Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Krishna is called Rishikesh because he's the master of the senses. We will say, what do you mean master of the senses? I am the master of the senses. No, Krishna is the master of the senses. Why? Because he's the one who's given us the senses. He's the one who's creating the senses. So we need to engage them in Krishna's service. And then they will be purified and we will be able to understand Krishna. Now one may inquire that since factually the devotee has the same material existential body, how is it possible that the same materialistic eyes become purified by devotional service? The example, as stated by Lord Caitanya, is that devotional service cleanses the mirror of the mind. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. That is the first effect of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. In the
Sorry.
Yes.
What does Rishikena mean?
Rishikena,
is Krishna, but
unto
Rishikena,
Krishna. unto Rishikesh.
Okay. Rishikena means
So
unto.
unto Rishikesh. Rishikesh, the senses.
Yes.
Sevanam,
Sevanam.
engage.
Yeah. Engage. Right.
Yeah. And
Bhakti,
then pure
devotion.
devotional service will arise.
Okay. All right. Rishikena means unto Krishna.
Unto Krishna.
Unto. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And this, yeah. Engaged in the service of Krishna. Krishna, Rishikena, he's called here Rishikena, Rishikesh. And because senses are also Rishikesh. So then, so the cleaning the mirror of the mind, that is the first result which we get when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Lord Chaitanya says that in the Shikshastatam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. There are 7 or 9 results that we get when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The very first is cleans the dust of material existence from our mind. So in a clean mirror, one can see one's face very distinctly. Similarly, simply by cleansing the mirror of the mind, one can have a clear conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 8, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. By executing one's prescribed duties in devotional service, Chetasa Nanya Gamina, or simply by hearing about God and chanting about Him. If one's mind is always engaged in chanting and hearing and is not allowed to go elsewhere, one can realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how can we approach God? He is spiritual, He is transcendental. Right now, we are in our material body. So how can we approach Him? We can approach Him by engaging our senses in His service. What does that mean? We have our ears. So by our ears, we can hear about God from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the scriptures. Then by our tongue, we can chant His holy name. We can honor prasad, food that has been offered to Him. And our mind, we can engage in remembering Him. Our mind, we can engage in remembering His pastimes. And like this, we will be able to realize Krishna. We will be able to realize God. By our hands, we can clean the temple, engage in deity worship. Legs can be used to go visit the holy dhams where Krishna's pastimes are being performed, or to go to the temple, like that, engaging the senses. And mind always fixed on Krishna. So how can we fix our mind on Krishna? When we can try to see everything and anything in relation to Krishna. When it's a happy situation, we can say, Krishna is being kind to me. He's encouraging me. I don't deserve so much, but He's encouraging me. And when the situation is bad, we can say, oh, I could have suffered much more, but Krishna is kind to me. He's making my suffering less. So like that, if we can relate, see everything in relation to Krishna, then we can fix our mind on Krishna. And as confirmed by Lord Chaitanya, by the process, Bhakti Yoga process, beginning from hearing and chanting, one can cleanse the heart and mind, and thus one can clearly see the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Bhakti, what happens is our mind and heart gets completely clean. So one may say, but I'm going to do some prayaschit, or I'm going to do some atonement for my sinful activities. And like this, all my sins are gone. Yes, true. The sins are gone, but the proclivity to sin does not go away. The desire to sin does not go away from the heart. The heart still has those sinful desires. So we may do some prayaschit or some, pious activity to get rid of our sins. But what happens is again we will continue to sin. Then again we get sinful reactions. Then continues the material existence. But with bhakti, what happens is our mind and heart gets cleaned. It's like a permanent cleanser. You know how you can have something, a super strong cleanser. This is a permanent cleanser. With that, the heart and the mind keeps getting cleaned. The material desires will go away. And gradually, one can understand, I am a part and parcel of Krishna, servant of Krishna. One can see oneself, and similarly, one can see Krishna. So that's the reason. The bhakti is the only permanent process for liberation. Lord Shiva said that since his heart was always filled with the conception of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of the Supreme Lord's presence within his mind and heart, he was always offering obeisances unto that Supreme Godhead. So Lord Shiva, he is constantly thinking of Krishna. Constantly, his thoughts are always with Krishna. And in his heart is Krishna also, because Paramatma is there in everyone's heart. So what is he doing? He's constantly offering obeisances to Krishna. In other words, Lord Shiva is always in trance samadhi. The samadhi is not under the control of the devotee. It is under the control of Vasudeva. For the entire internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts under his order. So the pure devotee is under the control of the internal energy of Krishna. You know, we say, I don't want to be under Krishna's control. That is material life. So what does Krishna do? He just puts an agent, Maya. And then he puts us under her control. But she is under his control. So indirectly, we are still under Krishna's control. We may like it or not, we may accept it or not, but that is the fact. That is conditioned life. We say, why should I be controlled by anyone? I'm independent. So Krishna makes us believe that by putting this agent Maya. But she controls us. We are completely under the control of modes of nature. We've completely forgotten our true identity. So of course, the material energy also acts by his order, but his direct will is specifically executed through the spiritual energy. So the pure devotees, they are under Krishna's spiritual energy. So Krishna is directly involved in their lives, personally. But in the material life, in material world, Krishna is not personally involved. All that is happening by the agency of Maya. Thus, by his spiritual energy, he reveals himself. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 6. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. Atma Mayaya means internal potency. Atma Mayaya, Krishna's internal potency, his spiritual energy. By his sweet will, he reveals himself by his internal potency, being satisfied by the transcendental loving service of the devotee. The devotee never commands, my dear Lord, please come here so that I can see you. It is not the position of the devotee to command the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come before him or to dance before him. So this is how a devotee thinks. A devotee never orders Krishna. Krishna, you do this for me. Krishna, you do that for me. He's never demanding Krishna. Because devotee understands, oh, Krishna is not the servant. I am the servant. So he does not command Krishna, oh, you come, I want to see you. Krishna, you dance, I want to see you dance. You please come here. No, the devotee is always concerned, how may I serve you, Krishna? How may I please you? What can I do to serve you? Please engage me in your service. That is the position of the pure devotee. There are many so-called devotees who command the Lord to come before them dancing. The Lord, however, is not subject to anyone's command. But if he is satisfied by one's pure devotional activities, he will reveal himself. So we may say, I'm chanting, Krishna still does not come to me. Whenever Krishna is pleased to reveal himself, he will reveal himself. We can't force Krishna. He's independent. But when he's pleased by one's sincerity, by one's mood, one's devotional service, then by his own pleasure, he reveals himself. Therefore, a meaningful word in this verse is adhokshaja, for it indicates that the activities of our material senses will fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the attempt of one's speculative mind. But if one desires, he can subdue all the material activities of his senses, and the Lord, by manifesting his spiritual energy, can reveal himself to the pure devotee. So Krishna is adhokshaja. He cannot be adhokshaja, he is transcendental. He cannot be approached by our material senses. So we may say, I'm going to just simply, out of my own mind, try to imagine Krishna without hearing about him. I'm just going to try to imagine what God is. I'm not going to hear from the scriptures. It is going to be according to me and according to my imagination. We will never be able to approach Krishna. We will never be able to approach God because he is on a spiritual platform. Our mind is material, so it's limited. But the only way we can understand Krishna when we engage in devotional service. Devotional service begins by hearing. When we are hearing about Krishna from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, this is devotional service. When we are chanting his names, chanting his glories, his pastimes, that is devotional service. Then, of course, it goes on. Then comes to remembrance, deity worship. Then, when Krishna is pleased, Krishna reveals himself. And he reveals himself by his spiritual energy, not material energy. Krishna's form is spiritual, not material. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to the pure devotee, the devotee has no other duty than to offer him respectful obeisances. Automatically, the devotee offers obeisances. Whenever we see a great personality, automatically we surrender to them. We see that this one, he is greater than me, he has better qualities than me, more accomplished than me. Whatever it may be, in whatever field, we automatically surrender to them. What to speak about Krishna? He's the most loving, the bestest person of all, the supreme person. So automatically a person wants to, the pure devotee wants to offer obeisances to him. The Absolute Truth reveals himself to the devotee in his form. He is not formless. Vasudev is not formless, for it is stated in this verse that as soon as the Lord reveals himself, the devotee offers his obeisances. So here Lord Shiva is also saying that Krishna has a form. It's not that God has no form, that Absolute Truth does not have a form. When we say Absolute Truth reveals himself, it means we can see him face to face, see his form. It's not just some mental state of being or just a state of being. No. Can see Krishna face to face, can see God face to face. Obeisances are offered to a person, not to anything impersonal. So it's not that we have attained a state of being and then we are offering obeisances to something vague or to our own self. No, not like that. Offering obeisances to God. God has a spiritual form. one should not accept the Mayavad interpretation that Vasudeva is impersonal. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, prapadyate, one surrenders. One surrenders to a person, not to impersonal non-duality. Whenever there is a question of surrendering or offering obeisances, there must be an object of surrender or obeisances. So it's not that we surrender to light, oh, light come and protect me, and then the light comes and protects us. No, it's not like that. Krishna, please come and protect me. We offer obeisances to Krishna, and Krishna protects us. So surrender is to the person, not to something vague or some state of being or some light. No, Krishna is saying, you surrender to me. In Bhagavad Gita, he's saying, you surrender to me. He's not saying you surrender to some light or some consciousness or something inside of me or to my knowledge or to anything. He's just saying, surrender to me. And we simply follow what Krishna says. Surrender to Krishna. Offer obeisances to me, he says. So offer obeisances to Krishna. So he has a form. He's a person, the supreme personality of Godhead. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Shilpa.
Mm-hmm.
Shilpa, you just mentioned about Lord Shiva is also always in trance, and he's also a pure devotee. And like I asked you yesterday, so is it also that he may also be affected by the mode of nature, like Arjuna was? If he's not meditating or if he's not in samadhi?
So we heard yesterday that Lord Shiva is a pure devotee and he's also a guna avatar. He's an incarnation of the Lord in the mode of ignorance. So how is it that he was feeling sad when he remembered Daksha's words? Because that means being in ignorance. Lamentation is in the mode of ignorance. So the explanation was given that because he's in charge of the mode of ignorance, he controls the mode of ignorance, but sometimes he may be influenced. And then, again, as you rightly said, because Krishna engages his devotees to perform pastimes for our benefit, to attract our hearts, to give us some lessons. And the devotees agree to be engaged by Krishna in this service. So, but we heard it, I think yesterday or day before, that Lord Shiva, he gets influenced sometimes by the mode of ignorance. That's why he was feeling sad. So he's a pure devotee, always under the spiritual energy, but sometimes he may be in this mode. Is that okay?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
And there is also this beautiful story of Bhrigu Muni when he was looking for that who's the Lord. And then he went and he tested, like he went to Lord Shiva and he said, Are isne to bhasma laga ke baitha hai pura ye. And then Lord Shiva got so angry that he wanted to, hit Bhrigu Muni, though they are brothers. And then he ran, and then Bhrigu Muni ran away from there. So that also shows that he sometimes get impacted by the moods, as you mentioned. Right? In that story also, he gets really angry at Bhrigu Muni.
Yeah. And so then the point to understand is that the pure devotee, he's completely under the control of Krishna. And he agrees to be used by Krishna for certain purposes, certain pastime, instrument in hands of Krishna. So yes, it's a appropriate story that you brought up, you just spoke about now, which can relate that how sometimes Lord Shiva may get influenced by the mode of ignorance. Thank you for that. Thank you. Did anyone else? Did anyone want to add anything else? No, then we'll stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.